afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Council of One's Babylon 5 review. And today we are into episode, 5 of season 2, gentlemen?
Yep.
And as always, I've got my fellow council members, Mountains of Elysium and Classic Comics. Fiona Wolf was here earlier and everything, but I guess she's having some technical difficulties, but we'll keep an eye and ear out for her. And, we'll go ahead and jump right into everybody who's watching on YouTube and on Twitter. Thank you for being here. And, guys, this is a fairly good episode and everything. It's, we're getting a little more, world building and everything in terms of the upcoming war with the Shadows. So, and of course, we got a nice little cameo appearance from one of the members of the USS Enterprise, and Dwight Schultz. I think that was his name. And guys, I open up the floor. Where do you want to begin with this puppy?
I suppose the Explorer ship is the original Explorer ship is a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
The person from the past who was around before any contact with alien races. Was it Mariah? It was fascinating, considering we had the previous episode where we have the modern, for the setting, Explorer ship, and we see the original Explorer ships that are sent out that were sublight.
Mm-hmm.
It was an interesting way that they had to be cryogenically frozen, waiting, I think, almost like in Aliens, listening for a signal and only then awakening.
Yeah, all right. This even has a little bit of a touch of Space Seed from Star Trek TOS and everything, which any good sci-fi series is going to have one of those episodes where you can get a ship that's just been playing out in space forever from Earth, and essentially they come across it at some point. So,
right, and of course it turns out to be kind of tragic because not long after they headed out, Earth discovers the Centauri, then gets the jump gate technology and all that. So their mission turns out to be kind of pointless.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is often the case. Just when we figure out something and everything, somebody else discovers something better. So, yeah, but honestly, this was I know some people may consider this a weaker episode, but we get a lot of world building. This is a very Garibaldi centric episode and everything, because you've got him talking with Amos, and everything. The poor guy from the ground war with the Minbari and everything. Another survivor of the Minbari war. And geez, I'm just gonna say it. The Minbari War tore a lot of people up, unfortunately. Of course, for Amos, it tore him up doubly so because they were on this planet. And things go very, very dark, very, very quickly. And you honestly feel for Amos in a lot of ways, just because he's a broken man.
Right.
I mean, you find him gibbering the Lord's Prayer and Hail Mary and all of the sorts of things, everything at the beginning, and Garibaldi has him taken into custody, and he's like, "Why aren't you putting me in jail?" And Garibaldi's like, "No, you're not a criminal. You're just a guy that's hurting, and I can tell that because I've been through a lot of the same things myself." And, you get that exchange between Amos and Garibaldi and everything, where Amos fesses up to the fact that he was a gropo, a ground pounder, essentially. And Garibaldi was like, "So was I." And they have that connection and everything. And Garibaldi's like, "I want to help you if I can, and if you'll let me." So,
it actually, the way Amos portrays it explains a lot of how Night Watch and those people got power. There's a lot of broken people and broken veterans from that war who were absolutely ripped apart. I think we see one of them in a later on in season, probably I think is in season 2, season 3, where Delenn is kidnapped.
Yeah.
And they're kidnapped by veterans, and those guys are just broken.
Mm-hmm.
So it is really great world building in and of itself. Amos was a good man and just has episodes. Other people went darker.
Yeah, well, he's serious. He's clearly got, serious PTSD.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think, the resolution of the Minbari War, the way it ended, I think, contributes somewhat, because technically Earth won because the Minbari surrendered, but the circumstances under which they surrendered are, that it's clear that the Minbari just let them off the hook, because they could have easily destroyed humanity if they wanted. And it leaves this sense, I think, among humans that, well, we could have won if we just kept fighting. And I think that kind of recalls, wars particularly in the 20th century, after World War I think there was a lot of that sentiment among Germans, because Germany was never really invaded and conquered. So the government and the regime was left intact. And I think there was a lot of that contributed to the sense of, well, we could have won the war if we just kept fighting, which is part of what fueled Germany getting into another war. And you could also, I think, relate it to the Vietnam War, because I think there's a pretty clear analogy between, the events that Straczynski kind of lays out. They clearly kind of mirror 20th century events to a large degree, in that, there's this sort of frontier phase, and then we get into the war with the Dilgar, where Earth comes in, and Earth, basically humans are kind of the heroes who sort of help defeat the Dilgar, who clearly have this kind of Nazi allegory with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they sort of have this big expansion where they become this new rising power, which kind of parallels how Earth becomes the superpower, or how America becomes the superpower on Earth. But then they get into this war with the Minbari, which sort of demoralizes them and makes them question what they're doing, and kind of mirrors what happened with Vietnam.
Yeah, very true. Because war, combat it's traumatic. I mean, if you look at going back into the very earliest histories of warfare, where we actually have documentation, the men and women that came through it were not the same. They were broken in a lot of ways, And very quickly to the chat, Sci-Fi Nation. Good afternoon, my friend. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it as always. So, but I can't speak from personal experience. I've never seen combat, probably never will. But from stories that my mother and my grandmother would share with me about my grandfather and everything, because he served during World War II and everything, him and his brother both. And grandfather would rarely ever talk about it, but they could always tell that he carried with him a burden. And as time passed, that burden became less and everything, but there are things that, obviously he had to take lives, and that can mark a person. It can scar a person very deeply. And, this episode is called The Long Dark, and it deals with the darkness of the soul, I think, in a very profound way.
Yeah. And
not only do you have Amos, but you have the woman that was on the Copernicus ship and everything, Maria, I think her name was. So, and very quickly to the chat, NetCat, good to see you, bud. Thank you for popping in. Hope you have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon. So. But, this episode, I think, very much deals with something both of you have hit upon, and that is post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's not an easy thing for anyone to go through, man or woman alike, and everything. Anyone who's seen combat, it marks you. So.
I know from my family, thankfully, they never carried the hatred through, but my grandfather was involved in the War of Independence and this later Civil War.
Hmm.
And on my mother's side, they were victims of British reprisals where their house was burnt down, they were beaten up.
Yeah.
So there was massive trauma brought through. So it leaves a scar, it leaves a note that can take generations to clear.
Yeah, that's honestly very, very true. And I think what this episode does very well is the fact that it doesn't shy away from poster PTSD. I'll just use the anagram instead of trying to say it. That's sometimes a little bit of a mouthful to try and wrap your brain around. But we've all faced those moments in our life, even though we don't go through combat, that mark us, that scar us, and everything in very profound ways. And I think what this episode does is it brings to light the fact that for the longest time, our societies around the world that had veterans and everything come back home from war, we often didn't know what they went through, and we didn't realize how much of an impact it had on them. I mean, I would imagine even those people that went through the First World War, they probably suffered very traumatically from PTSD. I mean,
Definitely.
if you think about it, J.R.R. Tolkien was probably one of the most well-known, obviously he's one of the most well-known authors in the world, period. But if you think about it, he probably suffered from PTSD, but we didn't know how to categorize it. We didn't have a name for it. They called it shell shock or whatever. But ultimately, I think what Tolkien did was he took all that trauma and he put it into his work, into his art, into his writing, and it worked exceedingly well. So that was a way for him to deal with what he had gone through.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say last December I saw that documentary on the First World War that Peter Jackson did. They shall not grow old. That's what it's called. And yeah, it was very eye opening, and I'd recommend it to anybody. But it deals with a bit of that.
Definitely will need to check that out. Thank you for bringing that up, Classic.
And they do specifically, some of them, because you hear a lot of it's mostly what you hear is recordings of interviews with veterans of the First World War, when they particularly talk about that, how when they came back, it was just people had no grasp of what they had been through because the media, I don't think, really brought the full horror of it, and what was really happening.
Yeah. And, I think having Garibaldi be the focal point for this episode in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously you had the story between Franklin and the woman from the ship and everything, Maria. At least I think that was her name. That was an interesting story in and of itself. You have a person, a contemporary of the 2260s, and you've got a woman or a person that's from in the past, and they try to spark a romance for Franklin, but it doesn't go anywhere because we never see this character ever again. But for me, I think the more interesting part, there's one interaction and everything exchange I really liked, where Jakar is in Zocalo and Franklin and Maria and everything are there, and he's like, "Go back to your century. This century isn't for a person like you. You will not find it pleasant here." Because Jakar knows what's coming. And he's trying to sound the alarm, just like in a way Amos is as well. But unfortunately, everybody else is too tied up in their own, well, for lack of a better word, nonsense to pay anybody any mention. And then, of course, at the end of the episode, you have Jakar sitting there in his quarters, and he's looking through his copy of the Book of Shaquan, and you see that very crude, but honestly very, I think very well done rendering of that soldier of darkness, that demon, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the whole romance between him and the woman feels pretty inappropriate, honestly. I mean,
Yeah.
her reactions are kind of weird. I know it felt a bit contrived.
Yeah.
Although I will admit that I think she was traumatized so much that she just latched onto him more than
Maybe.
anything. There was nothing romantic in it. That she's completely traumatized. She's completely thrown out of her world. She finds that her husband is killed, and there's something was basically eating her, or about to eat her while they were traveling. So she's traumatized as much as Amos, and he reacts by screaming, going crazy. She reacts by grabbing hold of the first kind face she saw. It's understandable, but yeah, it wasn't a real romance, and it wasn't appropriate.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Honestly, it did feel very contrived. It felt very inappropriate, and I can overlook it because there's a lot more good in that episode than there is bad and everything. So that honestly didn't bother me all that much. So, well,
And
guys, go ahead.
it's kind of a common thing with these sci-fi shows that you'll have episodes where a member of the crew will have some one episode romance with a character, and it feels kind of artificial.
Yeah.
Star Trek's had plenty of those.
Yes, particularly with Kirk and a few instances with Captain Picard. So Cisco was too busy for all that nonsense, at least until towards the end of the series. So, but yeah, fellas, what else about this episode do you want to hit upon that we haven't already?
Well, I think we should point out that Amos was played by Dwight Schultz, who played Barclay on Next Generation.
Yeah,
and also, of course, was on the A-Team. He
he
does pretty well. It's kind of tricky to play, quote unquote crazy, and have it not be over the top or too corny or whatever. And I think he does a pretty decent job with it.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, didn't he play Face, or no? He played Mad Mardigan on A-Team, didn't he?
Murdoch.
Mad Dog Murdoch.
Mad Dog Murdoch. Thank you. Yeah.
Howling Mad Murdoch. That was
okay.
That's it. Yeah, Howling Mad. You're right.
Yeah. And very quickly to the chat, Superior Hero Reviews. Welcome. Superior Hero, I sent you a DM on Instagram with my email and everything if you happen to check it and everything, and we can keep in contact that way. But and thank you for popping in as always. Good to see you. Yeah, honestly, Dwight Schultz or anything, he's a good actor. I mean, I had forgotten he had been in A-Team. I knew him from as Barclay from, or as he was known by Mr. Crusher, Broccoli on TNG. And I get the feeling this was a little bit of a leap and everything. This is a bit of an olive branch from Paramount or Star Trek over to Babylon 5 saying, okay, Superior Hero sounds good. And very quickly to the chat and everything, Captain Trek, good afternoon, sir. Good to see you. Thank you for popping by. I appreciate it. I sent it right after. I'll email you later today. All right. Yeah, and as you said, Classic, it's kind of tricky to play crazy, but he does it very, very well in this episode. And well, if you think about his character on TNG, was a little screwball, a little corny, a little quirky, and everything. But between the two characters, I think he did a very good job. So, at least from my perspective, if y'all disagree, that's okay. So,
I agree with you. I felt he did a pretty good job.
Because, well, I don't want to say crazy. I'll say manic, because he was kind of he was on edge because of his PTSD, but you get the impression that this guy, before he got messed up in the war, he was kind of a goof. He was kind of cheesy, kind of not cheesy, but he was kind of a screwball and everything. But unfortunately, what happened to him on that base and everything really sent him over the edge, unfortunately. And honestly, I'll say this or anything, that that ghost story that he tells to Garibaldi, I think it is, talking about when him and his units on that base and on that moon and everything in that old structure, and they come up, and that for lack of a better term, that demon or whatever it is, everything that being and everything that you can't see just starts tearing through his unit and ultimately just starts feeding on him is honestly, I think, creepy as all hell. But that's, I don't know what you guys think.
I think it was really well done. Actually, as a thing, it was written by a writer for the Twilight Zone, Scott Frost. So that could be. It was a really good.
Okay.
I think a really good thing that they got a writer who knew the genre to bring that in.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
I didn't either. So, Mountains, thank you for bringing that up.
Well, I Lurker's Guide for that.
Yeah, sci-fi. Sci-fi Nation brings up Matt what was his last name? How do you pronounce his last name?
Matt Frewer.
Phew, thank you. Yeah, he played Max Headroom way back when in the and then he was on that one episode of TNG, A Matter of Time. So yeah, that'll say is one. And he's had some movie parts and everything over the last several decades and everything, and he's done pretty good. I know he was in that remake that Zack Snyder did of Dawn of the Dead, and his character was actually really good. At least I think it was. So, but yeah, I was not aware at all that it was a Twilight Zone writer and everything that did this episode. And it kind of reminds me of another. Well, to kind of segues a little bit off of this reminds me of an episode of Twilight Zone that one of my professors has watched in class and everything. It was called, I think, Nightcrawler. And essentially, this guy was a survivor from the Vietnam War, and he was kind of a drifter. But unfortunately, what happens anytime he falls asleep, his dreams become manifest. And it's the same nightmare every single time. And he has to stay awake to keep from his dreams or anything destroying or killing anybody that's around him at the time. And it's actually a really, really good episode. So, well, guys, anything else about this episode you wanna touch upon?
Well, it's obviously it's a episode that has some allusions to the shadows. Of course, we don't get anything specific, but we learn that of course, the course had been reprogrammed to go out towards the rim, towards the area where we know there's been some unusual activity and all that. So obviously, kind of foreshadowing, the Shadow War and the return of the shadows and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And it also gives us a look at, down below, we kind of see the underside of the station again.
Yeah.
Which is always usually interesting.
Yes, very true. So
I just wonder that I can't remember, did Sheridan, did he know at this point that his wife was caught up, that it was a Hadum that his wife's ship went to?
No,
because he didn't seem to have. Yeah, because I don't think, because he didn't have much of a reaction to the name. That if his wife had been involved, he certainly would have reacted more to that.
Yeah, he just, if I remember right, it's just that she was going on a mission, deep exploration mission out to the rim.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Elysium, I don't think Sheridan learns the name of the world until that episode with Mr. Morden. And
Coming of Shadows.
Yeah, and Kosh shows the hologram or whatever we'll want to call it and everything of the ship and everything, the Icarus landing on Zahadum, and that's when everything starts to click together for Sheridan, and that's when Delenn implores him, "You've got to let him go."
Right. Which is one of the best episodes in the series.
Yes, I would wholeheartedly agree because, and we'll get to that in due course and everything, obviously. And Sci-Fi Nation brings up Jakar's an excellent character. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And of course, he played Commander Tom Malaka and everything on TNG. So, well, guys, I hate to cut. I don't want to cut this short, but I think we've pretty much dissected this episode and everything as well as we can. I don't know if you all need to rush off, but there are a couple of sci-fi related to things that have popped up in the last couple of weeks or anything. If you want to touch on those, and that's the I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but that's the trailer for Dune, and of course we got our first teaser trailer for Mandalorian season 2. So if you wanted to take a few minutes and discuss that, we by all means can, or if you want to go ahead and just close out, we can do that too.
I'm happy to do whichever.
Yeah, if you want, we can talk about like the Mandalorian right quick if you want.
Sure. Anything, because I know Dune's kind of old news. I really haven't had a chance to give a discussion on it or anything, but we can do Mandalorian. That's fine with me. I'm assuming both of you have seen it, the trailer.
I haven't yet.
Oh, okay.
I've seen the trailer for Dune, but not the Mandalorian. But
okay.
I haven't actually seen the Mandalorian at all yet, and maybe that's something for next week you can fill me in on.
Yeah, because I'll be in touch with you about that. Well, here, give me just a minute because a lot of people are sharing this and it's not getting taken down. So I'll pull up the trailer for Mandalorian. We can all watch it. We can all give our thoughts on it. I think give me just a second, guys. I didn't really plan on this, but I certainly don't mind doing it. So, okay. And there it is. Okay. Where? I just want a simple trailer. Here we go. This will work. Now, let me get past the commercial real quick, guys. Hold on 1 second. You just gotta love commercials. Or not. Okay, here we go. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. And Sci-Fi, I understand what you're saying, bud. Truly. So, share audio. Mandalorian. Let me. Can y'all see that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is the audio coming through all right?
Yes.
Okay.
Show me the one whose safety deemed such destruction. You must reunite it with its own kind.
Where?
This you must determine.
Well, guys, what do you think so far?
It's looking pretty good. I haven't seen The Mandalorian yet, but it's something I've heard a lot of good things about.
And real quick, Sci-Fi, I've seen several people that have been doing reviews of this, and they have been showing it and everything on screen with sound and everything, and nothing's gotten taken down yet. So I should be okay. I appreciate the concern, honestly. So, okay. Let's get back to it.
The songs of eons past tell of battles between Mandalore the Great and an order of sorcerers called Jedi.
You expect me to search the galaxy and deliver this creature to a race of enemy sorcerers?
This is the way.
You know this is no place for a child. Wherever I go, he goes. So I've heard. This is the way.
Well, fellas, what do you think?
That
It's
looks
okay.
Sci-Fi Nation's like, real X-Wings? Yes, please. So, honestly,
Yeah.
I saw... Go ahead, class.
I was gonna say, I mean, it looks fine. It doesn't really get me really excited, but I don't see anything really wrong with it either.
Mm-hmm. Mountains, I mean, obviously, you're kind of coming in out of this from the outside, but just as a normie, does this look like something you'd want to watch?
Yes. I mean, that looks like something I'd really enjoy watching.
Okay. Oh, and hey, Fiona Wolf's back.
I can't even load a picture right now because, Florida decided to have a power outage for like 30 plus minutes.
Well,
even though the hurricane's nowhere near me.
Well, unfortunately, Fiona, we've already finished our review of Babylon 5. We just got done watching the trailer for Mandalorian Season 2.
But that's okay. I figured, like, oh well, stuff happens.
And hey, it's okay. There's always next week. So, unless you want to, if you want to give your thoughts on the episode, we're more than happy to. We're more than happy to go back over it with you. That's no problem. So
it's fine. Sometimes technology works weird. It's like there could be a hurricane directly over our house and we won't lose power, but one little strike of lightning from some random storm and we're down for like 30, 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Go figure.
So, well, Fiona, let me ask you: have you had a chance to see the? Well, I don't know how you feel about it, but have you watched the trailer for Mandalorian Season 2 yet, or do you plan on doing so?
Not really. Not at this time. Just because, again, I'd rather not. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get that people do enjoy it. It's just that until they actually bring back the EU, I'm not going to bother with some of Disney's stuff.
And I understand that.
Don't get me wrong. Like, people could go haywire and enjoy it. It's just right now that's my little way of basically, like, hey, Disney, change your tune, that sort of thing. Woo! God,
Yeah.
Man, my other four browsers just came up. Like, Jesus. Okay. Exit out all that.
It's all right. Don't feel bad. I've done the same thing to my computer. So, well, just to give my thoughts. Yes, I'm a hardcore Star Wars fan. Most everybody knows this. Does this intrigue me? Oh yes, this very much intrigues me. I want to see this. I probably will watch it. I might get a. I might set up. And Sci-Fi Nation's like, I'm so sick of the EU arguments. Either it counts or it doesn't, and Trek it doesn't. Wars needs to make up its mind already.
There you go.
Sci-Fi Nation, I can kind of understand what you're saying, man. I really do. So, but honestly, my thoughts on this, I definitely will give this a watch. I liked season 1. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm more than willing to give the good people and everything that have worked on this my time and my attention until they've proven to me otherwise that I shouldn't. So, anyway. Well, folks, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. I want to thank everybody, Fiona Wolf, for being here, and then unfortunately, getting struck down by the hand of the Almighty, quite literally.
It's like,
no.
yeah, this part of Florida is doing just fine. Oh, boop, power outage.
The soldiers of darkness are heading for Zahadoom, I think.
Yeah. I've went through category 4 hurricanes, no power outage, seeing like the lightning hit like stuff next door and take out their power, but we're just fine. And then some little storm comes by. Boop.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I want to, Fiona, I appreciate you being here, and we'll definitely, obviously, you'll be back next week, as I'm assuming. So, but Mounds of Leap, Classic Comics guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me as always. I really appreciate it. So, and to everybody that's been in the chat, Sci-Fi Nation, Captain Trek, Superior Hero Reviews. I think there were a few other people in here. Let me scroll back up because I don't like missing anyone because I'm weird that way. I'm a little OCD. Netcat was here, and
Captain Trek, it looks like.
Yeah, Captain Trek was here. Yeah.
And somebody called Netcat.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Netcat was here too. So, well, for all of you that were here.
I got just one thing to say, though. There's one thing. Like, I wonder if Dr. Franklin ever got back together with that nice lady in the epilogue after season 5.
We have no idea. So.
That's my commentary.
Yeah. It's a nice fan theory. So. Well, folks, for those of you that were here during the stream and those of you that'll catch us on the replay, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. I hope you enjoyed our little discussion on Mandalorian Season 2. I might do a fuller review at some point and everything, but right now I've just been I've been busy and everything. So just a quick heads up, later tonight at 7 p.m., I'll be back with the ambassadorial birthday watch party. We'll be watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and that'll be at 7 p.m. Central Time and everything. And I've got a great panel of people, and I've still got some room for more if anybody wants to join in and everything. So, and then of course this Friday I'll be streaming another installment of my Star Wars fan fiction, Ray Who. So, Mountains of Elysium, I know you've got your video uploaded. I will put a link for it to everything in the description so everybody can go check that out. Classic Comics, do you have anything that you want to plug for your channel before we close out?
Well, I did a review of the latest issue of The Flash, which I just put up on my channel the other day. So if anyone's interested in that, then come by and check it out. Okay, and I'll put a description I'll link for that in the description of this stream as well. So, and Fiona, I know you've got your blog spot. I know you're working on your fan fictions as well and everything. And I say to you, my fellow fan fiction writer, hail.
Yeah.
So,
well, in my case, yeah, I'm just shoving everything in there I've ever loved about superheroes and space opera. So it's like, there we go.
Yeah. So, all right, folks. Hopefully I'll see some of you all this evening. And until next time, this is the Ambassadors signing off.